The one that I usually use is Kickstart. This is a plugin by Nicky Romero. Very, very simple. It's basically like an LFO generator. What it does, it just adds a volume change. That's all it does. Every kick, it'll turn the volume down. So if you've not used sidechaining before, this is probably the easiest way of doing it. It's probably my most used plugin. I find it a lot easier than just using a compressor to sidechain. Don't get me wrong, if you are sidechaining things that aren't 4/4, you have to use a compressor. This won't do it unless it's in 4/4. So every kick on the one, if you use making drum and bass or garage, it's not going to work because the kicks are in different places. So this will do it there and bring this down. Now this on the left is just the amount it's going to turn it down for each kick. So if we have a listen when it's on and off, you're going to get that bounce to it. It's going to duck away for that kick. Now this is, I had this quite high, to be honest. That's quite high for it. And it is getting away from the kick quite well there. Got that punch box playing. It's about 4 kicks going on there. So that's going to just give us that sidechaining effect. Now, if you're not using Nicky Romero, I mean, actually, don't bother not using it. Go and buy it. It's £9, right? It's the best £9 you'll ever spend. Just go to the Nicky Romero website, Cable Guys, I believe it's made by. Just go on there and buy it. So don't even bother with normal sidechain. I promise you that's the best one to use. So like I say, we'll be starting in this loop, and what we're going to move on to now, once I did my kick like that, and like I say, I would have already had a hat and a clap or something in there to go along with it while I was making that bass line. So the hats that I'm going to show you first, I usually bring in a hat first. I'm going to go into my drum group, which is down here. And we're going to go into the hats. Now, what you will see, there's a few in here. There's not loads. For me, this is probably the least amount of drums that I've possibly ever used in a track, which is a little bit crazy, you know. So for this one, it just didn't need it. If you know, you don't have to go over the board if it doesn't need to go overboard. A lot of the time, though, I'll have a few layers to each sound. So, you know, I'll have a couple of hats to layer up my main hat, like a closed one and an open one. And then with my shakers, I might have 2 layers. Clap and snare, I have minimum 2, sometimes up to 5 for the clap and snare. That's a layer on the same one. Now, if I go into here, what we've got is my normal hats, my open hat, another open hat here. I'm sure I had another hat in here. Let me just check something. No, just the one. Literally just the one. Oh, it shocked me. Okay, so the first one I would have put in would have been this open hat. Now, this one just sounded good as it was. It was all it really needed. This was a little bit of an EQ. And like I say, all I ever do with my EQing, most of the time anyway, is I'm taking out. If the sound's good as it is, I'm not going to take out too much of it. And it's very simple. Very, very simple. Just getting rid of that. Okay. Now, the main thing with my hats and the way that I work with my hi-hats is I always take out attack. Okay. 909 hats for me, they've got too much smack at the beginning of them. So if we have a listen to this hat as it was, I'm going to take, we've got our fade in here. So this again is on a 1-shot because I like 1-shot. If you listen, did you tell the difference there? So we've got a lot of attack on that hat. There's a lot of punch. It's just nasty, okay? So what we do is then just fade that in a little bit. Much nicer. Very smooth at the beginning then. You're not going to get all that smack because, especially if you're layering hats, you're going to get that smack on each beginning of each hat. You're going to get that every time on like 3 or 4 layers. Like I say, this has not even got that many layers in this song. So what we'll do with that as well, which I will show you is, now this has got a few things on here. So I'm going to turn all these off for now. So this is my drum group. I'm going to turn these down, turn these off, just to see how it was beforehand. So easy peasy, just that hi-hat on the offbeat. We all kind of know how to do that. And then what I would have started to do is start to build that up very quickly. I'm just going to throw this in because we're going to try and get through more of these drums a bit faster. So I'm going to use a normal reverb there. And like I said, I want my reverbs to be nice and short. So I'm going to bring that decay time down, bring that back there. I like mine on high, so that's just the quality of the sound. Not too bad. I'm going to make the shies a little bit shorter on this one. Like I said, I like mine nice and tight for drums. I don't like it too long and airy. So we get everything a bit shorter there. Now, the main thing about reverb, what I always love, is this. So the SPL Transient Designer kind of works as like, if you remember, a lot of people used to put gates on the reverb. Now, gating your reverb is really good. I'll go over that in another video. But this really tightens up the reverb. Now, any reverb that comes through it, what we can do is we can shorten it again by bringing the sustain down on here. So if you listen to that on and then off, it might be hard to hear it through Zoom. Okay, so when you listen back to it, you'll probably hear this a little bit better. But what it's basically doing is just shortening that reverb down and getting everything tighter. It's the same on these. I've got it on here as well. The reverb on there, this is it dry. Makes a big difference. So start using those reverb returns. After that, what I've got is a EQ. Just taking out the low. You don't want any low in your reverb. And I like to dub it off a bit and take out some of the highs out of the reverb as well. Now, this will only affect the reverb. This won't affect any of the sound that's coming through. It'll just affect the reverb that comes through there. That's the beauty of putting it on a return as well, because you can affect the sound afterwards without it affecting the original note or the original sound. Okay, so that's simple hats, simple claps. What we've got then, if we move down my hats and my high ends. Any questions about the reverb, pop them in and we'll answer them after I've done drums. Okay then, so after creating my kick and bass, now one thing I will mention as well is usually when I'm doing this, I'm always in a loop, 8 bar, 16 bar loop. So none of this would have even happened by now, you know. And the part of the track I usually create is the main drop. And that's where I start off. I start off at my main drop. That's where I'm thinking about creating, because once you create enough elements, it's much easier to build the track afterwards. And I'm probably sure you've heard this a lot before, but make sure there's 20 seconds of your track that sounds mint. Because when I listen, I go through, say someone sends me a track, I'll just listen to like the drop first. I'll listen to the main part of the track. And if it doesn't get me going in 20 seconds, it's gone. I can tell if I like a track in 10 seconds. You know, it's just one of those things. You have a feeling for it, you know, when you're flicking through Beatport or whatever, you know straight away. So that's what we're aiming for. It's a really good loop before you even think about moving out. And to try and know what if it's ready, it's if you can listen to that loop for 2 minutes and it not get like too boring, or a minute and a half and it not get too boring.
Hi, this is Roger Sanchez.
Hi, this is Lenny Fontana.
Hey guys, this is Jackie.
Hi guys, Amber D here.
Hi, I'm Paul Maddox.
This is Satek.
Hi, this is Kyle V, and you're watching
Mixmasters TV,
where you can access world-class producers in your studio
Every single day.
Mixmasters.